Hello there ladies and gents, and welcome back once again to another exciting episode of AndyManCam's Garage. Today, onto my Yamaha FZ1-N, I'm going to be fitting the Healtech Thunderbox Advanced Power Distribution Module along with the Thunderbox USB Charger accessory. Now, we all know the pain of fitting electrical accessories onto our motorbikes. Sometimes you need to spend hours digging out a switched electrical feed to make sure that your accessory doesn't come on when the bike's not on and kill your battery. And sometimes you just end up with this horrendous situation where you've got so many accessories plugged into your battery that it not only looks disgusting, but every time you undo that bolt, it's raised up so much by all of these eye connectors that it no longer reaches the nut, and then you have to fumble around in there with something to lift the nut up to get this on. It's an absolute nightmare. And yeah, it looks disgusting. Well, thanks to Healtech and this little box of tricks, all of those problems are going to go away, because the idea is this little beauty gets connected directly onto the battery with these two connections, and then you connect all of your accessories onto these terminal blocks, and then not only does the Thunderbox take care of all of the fusing of everything, because this has overcurrent protection and automatic cutoff of the circuit if there's any kind of overload, but it also automatically switches the power supply on and off depending on whether the bike is running or not, solving all of the problems we've got here with the complicated nature of fitting stuff onto your machine. So first of all, we can take off all of these accessory connections, starting with the negative terminal. Put that out of the way so we don't get any accidental shorts. Then we can undo the positive terminal and its horrendous spider web of connections. For the sake of tidiness, let's pull all these wires right out of the way so we know exactly what we're dealing with. Right, so there's all of our accessory cables out of the way, and we can connect up the Thunderbox. But I think just to go that extra step and make this even more tidy, I'm going to poke this terminal cable up inside the battery main cable gaiter jobby here, so that can sit nicely on the top there, be covered over by that rubbery boot. Terminal bolt back in, which, just as I'd hoped, picks up the nut perfectly on its own without fiddling under there with a screwdriver or anything. Tighten that, cover it over with the gaiter. And then, because it looks like this red cable is, for my idea, a little bit short, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run it over the top of the battery here and actually mount the Thunderbox in this little space here next to the quick shifter, also from Healtech. Check out the link in the top right to see the installation of the quick shifter. And then, I suppose, as the main live wire is coming over the top there, might as well keep them together so we know where everything is going. So now we can reconnect the negative terminal with the Thunderbox connection there as well. And once again, the bolt picks up the nut without any trouble. Now some kids are kicking a football at the garage door, which of course isn't at all annoying. Now in the kit, amazingly, there are no cable ties. I think this has to be a first, but luckily I've got a couple here. So we can just fix these wires down to the battery seat belt. Stop them wandering anywhere. And that is the Thunderbox connected. So now you can use the already attached sticky back Velcro pad, which is on the back of it, stick it down to the bike. And I've already cleaned the surface of that thing that is going to go onto there, so you can just stick that straight down next to its Healtech brother. And there we go, that is installed. And with the perfect space over the top here for these terminal blocks and things to rest in once they're connected up to stuff. I could also, in fact, at some point maybe fix them onto the post left here from when I removed the exhaust servo motor and replaced it with the Healtech exhaust servo eliminator. Of course, naturally, there is a link to the installation of that unit on this bike as well. But before we go any further, let's just make sure that this little beastie actually works. At the moment it's blinking green once every 3 seconds, which means that it's currently in standby. Now, this is obviously just because we've only just turned it on. After 10 minutes of being in standby, the LED will dim down to 10% and it'll go into a deep sleep mode. And after another 24 hours of being in that state, it'll switch off completely and no longer drain any power out of the battery. But if I now turn the bike on, as you can see with ignition, nothing has happened. But if I start the engine, starts to flash green quickly, which told us that the power startup delay was happening, which means it was waiting for the engine to be running smoothly. then it would give it a 5-second delay and then start up with a solid green light telling us that it was on. Now this time when I turn it off, now we've got slow green blinking, which means that it's keeping the power on for the power down delay. After 5 seconds, it switches off completely, goes back into standby. And this is how the thing is set up out of the box. This is an automatic setting, which means it just knows somehow through magical Healtech electricery when the bike is running, and then provides power to these terminal blocks. There is another option, of course, where you can take this white wire, connect it to this other white wire extension that's in the box, along with a Scotch lock crimp connector there. And when you connect this up to a switched ignition feed, so number plate light, brake light, tail light, anything that comes on when the ignition is on, then that will change the operation of the Thunderbox so that when the ignition key is turned, that's when power will be supplied to the terminal blocks before the engine actually starts. But for me personally, I think I'm going to leave it as it is. I would prefer that no power is drawn through any of the accessories until the engine is running, which means there's always going to be maximum power from the battery for the start of the bike. Also means if I should accidentally leave the ignition turned on, walk away for a cup of tea and a butty, I'm not going to come back and find out that everything has killed the battery, because when the engine isn't running, the power will be switched off. So as far as I'm concerned, that white cable we can poke out of the way. Now there is another thing that you can do with this white cable, which is to connect it directly to one of the black terminal blocks. And what this will actually do is bypass the Thunderbox completely, which means that none of the accessories connected to any of these terminals will get any power whatsoever. Everything will be switched off, which is perfect for if you're going to be leaving the bike for a long time, or if you're charging the battery. So with the fitting out of the way, we can connect one or other of our peripherals. There are actually two versions of the Thunderbox. I've got the TB-U02. That means that I have two 16 amp circuits for a total of 32 amps of available power, and the TB-U01 has just half of these connections, meaning that you only have 16 amps of available power. I've got heated grips, heated vest, various USB chargers and things, so I opted to go for the larger one, so I've got a bit more power options available. And speaking of USB chargers, there is actually a Healtech designed for Thunderbox weatherproof USB charger accessory available, already with nice ferrules on the end of the cables there to plug into the terminal blocks. Incidentally, on my favourite subject of weatherproof, I tend to get everything wet, so thankfully I'm glad to say that the Thunderbox inside, all of the electrics are entirely epoxy coated, so everything is both waterproof and vibration proof, and should hopefully last beyond the life of the bike. So I think the best thing to try and test this stuff out with would be the USB charger that I've got in the box, the TB-USB1. This provides a 5 volt up to 2 amp supply, perfect for charging pretty much anything up to a large phone or even a tablet at a push. It just might take a little bit longer. So with these terminal blocks, what we need to do is, for the negative of the USB charger, we'll take the negative from the Thunderbox. Now in these terminal blocks, this is just 5 connections that all share a common rail, which means that anything connected to any of these other 4 empty slots is going to be connected to this main cable. So I'll just take the next one there, pull down the little lever jobby, poke in the black wire from the USB charger, flip the little lever jobby shut, and that snaps into place. And then to complete the circuit, same again on the green one. The positive output cables on the Thunderbox are all green, saves you from any risk of getting it mixed up with the positive, which goes to the bike's battery. So we take our positive cable from the USB charger, plug that in, snap the lever shut, that's now connected as well. So that means this USB charger is now connected to the Thunderbox, now connected to my bike. But if I take my handy Noco XGB12 battery charger, which I always have with me in the garage in case I need to charge up the batteries, plug in the charging cable and then plug this in to the Healtech USB charger, nothing happens. And that was exactly what we were expecting, because there's no power flowing through this. Despite this box being connected to the battery, the Thunderbox is killing the power, there's nothing getting through. But once again, if I start the bike, we get the green flashes, and then the power is switched on, and now the Noco battery pack is being charged by the bike. By the same token, when we switch it off, the Thunderbox will wait 5 seconds and then cut the power off. There we go. Power's been cut, the battery charger's not charging anymore. So this thing officially works. That's absolutely brilliant. Why, Healtech, did you not create this jobby years and years ago? No more searching for switched supply, no more worrying about dead batteries, no more having to pile up 20,000 connectors on the battery terminals. I love it. So that's an accessory which obviously is already perfectly set up to go straight into the Thunderbox. What about something else that you've already got fitted? For example, these are the cables for my heated grips. Well, all we need to do in this case is, I'm going to start with a negative connection there. This eye connector is no longer necessary, so we can just snip that off. Strip back about 10 mil of cable, give it a twist, and poke that into another free slot on a little connectivity block. And then once again, same on the positive cable. As I already said, the box provides fusing function, so technically the fuse on this cable is no longer necessary, but just for the sake of not destroying something, I'm going to leave it on there. But theoretically, you could now plug things into this without worrying about the fuse, because this little box of tricks is going to take care of that for you and kill the power if there's any kind of overload. Now the box does allow overloads to happen for 200 milliseconds, and this is to take care of things like halogen bulbs lighting up if you've got any kind of auxiliary lighting units. But if there's an overload for longer than that, it'll cut the power, it'll attempt to re-provide power 3 times, and after those 3 times, if the overload is still happening, it'll cut the power completely. Then you need to reset the Thunderbox by removing the red terminal cable for 5 seconds and then reconnecting it to the bike. I mean, obviously after you've fixed whatever is causing the overload. So that's the positive cable for the heated grips in, and as that's already installed on the bike, we can test that out. So whereas before with the Oxford heated grips, you used to be able to turn them on even when the bike was off, but they wouldn't provide any heat to the grips. Now it's completely off, so there's no power whatsoever. But if I turn on the bike, so at the moment it's still off because the Thunderbox hasn't laid power through, but now the power is there, so we can turn on the grips up to 100%, and then once again, if I turn the bike off, the Oxford grips would normally turn themselves off after a few minutes because of the energy saving mode feature that's built in, but now because of the Thunderbox, as you saw just then, just switches off completely, no more power getting to the heated grips. So that's a bit of a double whammy of energy protection there now. Right then, so here we are after a little blast on the bike, and I've now got the Healtech USB supply coming out from under the seat here, which is connected up to my phone in the tank bag. I've got my Garmin Zumo sat-nav connected up to it. I've also got another USB power supply on the handlebars here, into which is connected my Hero 5 Session, and last but not least, the heated grips as I connected earlier on. And at the moment, everything is receiving absolutely no power whatsoever. So if I stick in the ignition key, the ignition is now on, the bike has power, but the Hero Session is still off, the heated grips are receiving no juice, the sat-nav is off, and the phone is not charging. But as soon as I start the engine, after a short delay, now we can see the phone is charging, the sat-nav switched on, the Hero 5 Session has started charging, and the heated grips now have power. And by the exact same token, when I turn the bike off again, after a short delay, the Thunderbox will cut the power to everything. So heated grips have gone off, sat-nav external power has been lost, phone is no longer charging, Hero 5 Session has now stopped charging. None of the accessories that I have on the bike are sapping the energy out of the battery. How good is that? And I think it's also a very subtle but very clever little touch that there's the delay before the power gets switched on, because quite often when a bike starts up, there's all sorts of peaks and transients and electrical spikes that could potentially fry sensitive electricery. So there we go, that is the Healtech Thunderbox Advanced Power Distribution Module and the Thunderbox TB-USB1 USB Power Supply. Huge thanks once again to Healtech for throwing me yet another amazing little gadget to stick on the bike. I am really impressed with how this little jobby works, and really happy with the way that I can now rest assured that none of the electrics on my bike are going to be sapping power out of the battery when I don't want them to be, and I'm always going to have maximum starting power for every time I want to turn the bike on. I mean, obviously the only downside of this is I've had times in the past where I've plugged a bunch of stuff into the bike and I've left it to charge while I've gone for a cup of tea. That option is now out for me with my current configuration, but as we saw in the installation, you can set it up so that the ignition is enough to turn the Thunderbox on. Also, still with that little delay. I think that's just about everything, so thank you so very much for watching. If you found this video interesting, please do hit the like button, or if you feel strongly enough to say that you didn't like it, hit the dislike button. It's all good with me. And of course, if you're not already, get yourself subscribed to the channel to see more videos like this of me strapping stuff onto my bike and testing it out, and also hooning this bike and all of its gadgetry around the countryside. Speaking of which, I'm going to go and do exactly that. Enjoy the last few rays of sunshine and blat around on the country roads for a few minutes. In the meantime, keep yours shiny. I've been AndyManCam. I'll see you next time. Ta-ra.